Well, joining us inside the wind tunnel is a veteran racer, but more importantly, an outspoken broadcaster. You never have to worry that Kyle Petty is going to shy away from controversy. He speaks his mind, and that's why we are of like minds. And I can't think of a better week, Kyle, to have you join me in the wind tunnel than what we have seen first at Las Vegas 2 weeks ago, and then the ensuing weekend. Bubba Wallace found himself watching the race from Homestead Miami Speedway instead of racing in it. What's your take on all this brouhaha?
Um, so I've said it, so I might as well say it again. I think it should have been more. I said it from the very beginning. It should have been for the rest of the year, 4 races. And because of it was intentional, the intent. It's not, we have seen guys get into each other for 1,000 years. We've seen it. That's just what racing is guys getting into each other. But for a guy to come off the wall and stand in the gas and drive down the racetrack into someone and turn them back up into oncoming traffic, the intent was there. And the NASCAR said, and I pointed it out when they said we just evaluated what went on in the incident. Right. Well, what about walking across the racetrack with cars coming by you on both sides, and you're just wandering around in the middle of the racetrack like a lost dog? What about coming and spending almost 50 seconds walking from your car to another car, and then as the driver gets out of the car, you don't know whether he's hurt or not, and it's a physical altercation. It's a physical. Now that's not heat of the moment. Okay, we're past the heat of the moment.
That's not 1979 Daytona 500.
No, it's not. It's not. Then what about when an official comes? You push the official away, and you don't get in an ambulance as protocol, safety protocol for NASCAR. So if you look at it, it's not just one. The one opens the door. The one incident opens the door to the other 5 infractions that they just ignored, that they just looked the other way and said, we're not going to comment about that. Well, if you don't comment about it, then don't come back. Don't come back next year, or don't come back at Phoenix when a driver gets out of an accident and just walks away. You didn't do anything to Bubba. Why aren't you going to do anything to this guy? So I think they left too many unanswered questions, too many pieces laying on the table. The simplest thing to do was to say intentional in a car that your car owner has been more outspoken and more verbal than any other car owner in the industry. Denny Hamlin has said how this car needs to be fixed. They need to fix it now. NASCAR's leadership needs to change. Something needs to happen. What about you're in the 45 car that the previous driver is out because of a head injury, and it forced his early retirement in that head injury? What about all of those extenuating circumstances? So it's the perfect storm to come together, and it just didn't happen. It just didn't happen. It's one race that you set at home. And listen, even if we go back to Matt Kenseth and Joey Logano, Matt got two. Matt got 2 races. 2 races. Okay. And that was intentional. So if we just go by that, if we just go by what's on the racetrack, that the intent is the part that's the part that's hard to swallow. Is you saw a competitor intentionally take out a guy at 170 or 80 miles an hour, and he gets 1 race. That's not anything.
Partner, NASCAR's not had a very good month. I mean, some of the rulings that have been, altered, overruled, what have you, the situation with teammates. And look, I spent a lot of time in a previous episode saying this isn't precedent setting. It's happened. And when you have teammates, that what happens. But why do you think, and let's set aside the Bubba Wallace, because that is really bad. But why do you think NASCAR all of a sudden, after having a pretty good honeymoon all year long with a brand new car, how have they hit the dirt road and the gravel road and all the bumps and potholes all of a sudden and take away and diminish from a pretty compelling chase for a championship?
Yeah. I don't know. I felt like, and once again, me, listen, I'm just going to tell you how I feel. With William Byron 25 points was not a penalty in a 3-round series.
Right.
It was an elimination. It was an elimination.
Yep.
So that was way the other way. That was way off the chart to this side, to way too severe. 100,000, 8 points and 50,000, 8 points and 200,000, whatever you want to charge cash wise. These guys don't give a rat's rear end. Charge them what you want to. If you just want a big headline in a paper, just charge them $250,000, charge them $500,000. They don't care. But the thing is, those points are priceless. Those points are priceless. But 25 was an elimination from that round. That needed to be addressed. We look at what Kevin and Stuart Haas, and you look at Rodney and Kevin, that penalty had to be addressed and had to be implemented because it's in the rule book. It says it. And they lived up to that. They went straight up to it. The thing that happened with Cole Custer and that whole fiasco, they had been through it once before when, Clint Boyer comes on the radio and says, my arm itches. And that was the code word. You know what I mean? and these guys, I guess the code word now is, you've got a flat tire. Stop. You've got
check up.
Yeah. Right. I mean, it's great. Just stay off the dang radios, people. Just stay off the radios. That's all you got to do. But at the same time, the way they looked at it, the way they handled it, their explanations. This is the thing. And I'll say this. And I'm old. I'm old. But everything I go back to, because I was a teenager at this time and really just understanding what was going on in the world. So Nixon had his guys break in the Watergate building. That's all well and good, but that's not what got him in trouble. What got him in trouble was their mouthpieces talking and the cover up and what they said and how their words come back to bite them.
And John Mitchell's wife. Right.
Exactly. But what gets these guys in trouble a lot of times, and what gets the sanctioning body in trouble, is how they address it, how they handle it, and how they do. Just come out, be forceful. You know what I mean? Put on your big boy pants and say, this is what we're doing. I don't give a rat's rear end who you are. You did this, and this is the punishment. But don't give me that, well, we looked at it. And listen, I say this, how in 2022 do we have an incident that happens in the middle of the front stretch at Texas Motor Speedway, and they actually come out and say, we didn't see it.
Yeah.
We didn't see it. Listen, I work for NBC. We played it on TV for 8 minutes in a row. You know what I mean? So I'm just saying it was there. But how can you come out with a straight face and say, we didn't see it? We didn't see it. And then you say you didn't see it, but it's such a harsh penalty. So there's there needs to be, listen, I say this, and this is a compliment and a slam all at the same time. Okay. From me, I do applaud NASCAR by every time there is an incident that they look at it as an individual incident. They look at it on the merits that it has, what happened in this incident, and what happens and how they should deal it. I do applaud them for that. At the same time, in a strange way, by not having any set penalty and any set rules, where's the integrity of the sport?
Yeah.
Where did the integrity go? So it's a double-edged sword.
Let me even confound you even more, KP. All right. You and I grew up in the era of Big Bill and Bill Jr. And it's my sandbox. And if you don't like it, take your damn Tonka toy and go somewhere else.
That's right. That's right.
Now, we can sit there and revisionist history can look and say a benevolent dictatorship was good for the time, but it wouldn't be good now. But I tend to believe that is really, to a certain degree, what's lacking.
Yes.
Is instead of bending over backwards to give, whether it's the fans or we as members of the media, compelling and reasonable explanations for everything, I would welcome the time for someone like OD to stand up and say, we did it because he pissed us off.
That's right.
All right.
Listen, and back to the days of Bill Jr., where it's like, this is the fine because I don't like it.
Yeah.
You did something to my sport that I don't like. And this is what it's going to be. And you can appeal it and you can take it to the highest court in the land. I don't care about that. It's my sport. It's my sport. And that's, I think you need that type of leadership. We see it in other sports too, with the commissioners. When the commissioners and those people make a ruling and they show that weakness, listen, these guys will drive all over you. And that's what these cup drivers will do. And that's what these team owners will do. They will drive all over you. There was no weakness in Bill France Sr. There was no weakness in Bill France Jr. And I'm not saying that there is a weakness now. Shoulder to shoulder, this is as strong an organization as we probably ever have. When I look at Steve Phelps, when I look at Steve O'Donnell, when I look at what Mike Helton has done, these guys are the best in the business, they just need to stand and say, no more, man, no more. That they did that wasn't on the backstretch at Las Vegas. Okay. That was on the strip. Okay. That was right out in front of South Point's casino, right out in front. And that was it. That was a Vegas showdown right there. Yeah. So it wasn't like you tried to hide anything. So I'll go back to Bubba's thing. And it's a tip of the iceberg. It doesn't make it. It's just another layer of the onion this year.
Well, hopefully by the time we get to Phoenix, we'll at least be able to focus on the four there. Yeah. Your assessment of the performance of this Gen 7 car. We've been hip deep. You guys have been as well, as far as some of the things where it's lacking. And certainly the safety component is something that needs to be addressed. But overall, in the 50 years that I've been around this craziness, I can't think of as competitive a season. So now if we can just find the sweet spot, but I tell you the thing that makes me laugh, I am so tired. In the Gen 6 car, it was, he took the air off my front end.
Yeah.
All right. I had an aero push. Now I'm listening to these, $1 million crybabies going, I can't pass. It's too hard to pass.
Yeah.
You know what? Figure it out. Isn't that what we wanted? We want it to be hard to pass. We want you to show us why you're being paid the big bucks.
Yeah. And I do sympathize with him. Okay. I do sympathize with him. We came along and you go back to with that square nose Monte Carlo, that right. Mid 70s thing. And then we got that slope nose and we were like, oh my God, this is the most aero thing in the world, dude. And then they put a back glass on them. And when that little Buick came out in the early 80s and they let it run its air down all the way down to the ground, that's when the aero horse left the bar. And it's gone. It's gone. Ford got it, Pontiac got it, Chevy got it, Oldsmobile got it. And for your listeners that don't know, there were more than just 2 or 3 manufacturers that used to run in this sport. We may have run them all out of business, but they used to run in this sport. But when you look at it, that is a hard thing, and that is a hard piece. I will say this though. So many years, if we go back 8-10 years, if we go back 8 or 10 years before that, people complained about the intermediate tracks. There's no more racing on the intermediate tracks. Guys don't do anything. They just get out there, they run their race and ride around. This car has brought the intermediate tracks back to life. It's brought the miles, the mile and a half, the 2 miles of California that's going to change, but the 2 miles of California and Michigan, it's brought those racetracks back to life. And it's not really affected Daytona and Talladega that much, because with the packages that they run and the way they do, Daytona and Talladega are animals unto themselves, and they are what they are. It has hurt the road racing, and it has hurt what we've seen on the short tracks. But when you look at it, that's 5 or 6 road courses and 2 or 3 short tracks, where the majority of our racing is that intermediate. So that's why when I look at this year, it's been a phenomenal year. This car has been a huge plus. There are negatives to the car. There are things that we see continue to break. The rack the rack and pinion just doesn't seem to want to take
that kind of pressure and stress.
Yeah. They just doesn't seem to want to take that. So that'll be something that you address. We've seen right rears break, left rears break, this thing. I can't understand why every other racing series in the world uses one single lug and we can't get it right. So there's got to be a problem there somewhere, because we have way too many loose wheels and way too many wheels that come off these things on pit road. That has to be addressed. Obviously, the safety issue with the rear clip. The problem and the reason that it's taken so long, and this by spending your years up at Junior Johnson's in the hollow up there, is when something broke on Sunday, by God, it never broke again.
That's right.
You came back on Monday.
You fixed it.
You fixed it, dude. Something else might have broke, but that piece that broke never broke again. With single source suppliers and the way the car is built now, if Kevin Harvick breaks something on Sunday, they have to look at it. But 1 out of 36 broke. Because all those other guys had that same part. To change that, they've got to build enough for all 36 teams, for all 36 teams' backup cars. They have to test it. They have to have it approved through the NASCAR approval process. And then it gets to come to the racetrack on your car. So for poor Kevin Harvick, who is stressing that one piece, he's got to run another 2 months or 3 months before he gets a new part that he feels comfortable with. And that is the problem. It's you've created such a large ship and such a large organization that you're not as agile as these individual teams used to be.
It's like turning a speedboat versus an aircraft carrier.
Exactly.
Right.
So we're with an aircraft carrier now. We can't fix these problems overnight. And that's the frustration that the drivers have had with the driver council. And that's why we've heard Denny speak out. That's why we've heard Kevin speak out. That's why Jeff Burton, who is the chair of the driver council, that's why we've heard his comments. It's just taking time. And some of these drivers don't feel like they have the time. They don't.
Yeah.
And we see Kurt Busch's time has run out, because of this car. Would he have stayed another year? Would he have? I don't know. Now only Kurt can answer that. But I think this hastened his departure from the sport. And yes, he said it's not a total retirement. I'll run some other stuff. But I think we have to. That is a weak point in the process, not necessarily in the car. Is how quick can we make adjustments? How quick can we make changes? And that has to be looked at. Having said that, remember this. This is the first year of this thing. We've run 33 races, 34 if you count the All-Star race and throw in a couple more if we count the qualifiers and some of that stuff. But when you really look at it, this car has performed way above expectations.
I agree.
For these teams and for everybody else. So we can talk negatives and we can run it down and do all this stuff we want to. And you're going to have that if you go to the dealership and buy a brand new car that comes off right off the bat. You're just going to have little bugs in it. And that's what we have. But overall, this has been a huge plus for the sport of NASCAR and a huge change of direction for the sport.
I've said it before and I'll say it again. You are a breath of fresh air in amongst people that just want to echo what they get for talking points. I guess that's why I so enjoy sitting down and discussing the sport that we both love. I appreciate it. Good luck the rest of the year. And you are one very, very busy guy there, Kyle Petty.
Yeah,
you got so many irons in the fire.
You know me, keep moving. You can't hit a moving target. 99% of the people can't hit a moving target. I can tell you that. I get hit every now and then, but not hard.
That's Kyle Petty. We'll continue with this episode of Wind Tunnel after this timeout.